Not everyone is cut out for this. Business ownership will knock you down repeatedly. I'd rather tell you that now than have you find out after you've signed a franchise agreement. The most common thing I hear from people early in this process isn't a question about brands or investment levels or territory. It's quieter than that. It usually sounds something like, I'm not sure I'm cut out for this. And what's interesting is that it almost always comes from the people who are most capable of doing it. Welcome to the Franchise Champion Show. I'm Alan Regala, former D1 athlete, Stanford engineer, and franchise owner who built a multi-million-dollar exit. I created this show to help driven individuals like you find the right franchise and learn how to build wealth and reclaim your time. Most people think self-doubt is one thing. It's actually several, and they hit differently depending on who you are. The first version is the fear of failing publicly. Corporate professional who told their colleagues they were leaving to start their own business. And now they're picturing what it looks like if it doesn't work out, especially if the business isn't a sexy one. You were a director at a tech company, and now you own a home services franchise. The gap between how you were seen professionally and what you were doing next can feel exposing, and the thought of former peers finding out it didn't work makes the risk feel even bigger. Version 2, fear from a structured path. Some people have built genuinely impressive careers without ever having to take a real risk. The path was clear, the promotions came, support was there. Franchising is the first time they're being asked to bet on themselves in a real way that unfamiliarity reads as the danger even when the fundamentals are solid. Version 3, general risk aversion. Some people just aren't wired for uncertainty, and they know it. Their focus lands on what happens if it fails rather than what they need to do to make it work. The failure scenario is vivid, and the success scenario feels abstract. None of these are inherently bad. People are doing the best they can from their current level of awareness, and these fears make sense given where they're standing. There's a real conversation that happens, sometimes explicitly, sometimes just under the surface, about whether a particular business feels like a step down. You were a senior professional at a recognizable company, and now you're considering a residential cleaning franchise or a home repair service. The business itself doesn't match the identity you've built. Here's what I tell people in that moment. The business doesn't have to be sexy. What's worth being excited about is owning it, controlling your financial future, eventually controlling your time, being able to build something that compounds, that you can grow, and that you can one day sell. The business category is the vehicle. Where it takes you is the point. With how the world looks right now, the safe corporate job has never been less safe. People who thought they were in stable positions have been laid off with no warning. Taking control of your future has never been a more rational choice, and doing it through a proven system with support built in makes it even more rational. I built a tool specifically to address this. It's called the Franchise Owner Fit Assessment. 15 questions on financial and ownership readiness, and it takes about 5 minutes. It'll give you an honest picture of where you stand before you go any further. If you're curious to see if you're ready, go to athletetoowner.com/fit. Now, back to the show. The skill set made someone successful in a corporate career, serving customers well, building and leading a team, executing against a plan, communicating with stakeholders. Those are exactly the skills that franchising rewards. The model is already built. Systems are already tested. What the franchisor needs from you is the ability to run it, grow it, and lead the people inside it. Maybe that's what you've been doing for the last 20 years. One of the things corporate professionals don't fully see until they're inside it is how much support actually exists. The franchisor is your partner. The other franchisees in the system are people who have already solved the problems you're going to face. You're not starting from scratch in a room by yourself. You're joining something that was designed to help you succeed, because when you succeed, they succeed. There is risk in everything, including staying. A corporate job feels safe until the day it isn't. And a lot of people have found that out the hard way recently. The real question isn't whether to take a risk. The question is which risk you're choosing and how much control you have over the outcome. Clearly, I'm a big fan of franchising, but let's be honest. Not everyone is cut out for this. I'd rather tell you that now than have you find out after you've signed a franchise agreement. Here are 4 disqualifiers. If any of these sound like you, a W-2 job may be your best fit. The first is no grit. Business ownership will knock you down repeatedly. There will always be problems, and the question isn't whether they'll come, it's whether you'll keep getting up. The people who struggle the most are the ones who treat every obstacle as a sign they've made the wrong decision rather than just the next thing to solve. If you need things to go smoothly to stay motivated, franchising is going to be a hard road. Number 2 is no accountability. This one is harder to spot in yourself, but it's the most predictive. The people who consistently wear the victim hat, who feel like things always seem to happen to them, who look everywhere but inward when something goes wrong, they tend to repeat the same problems because they never identify their own role in them. In franchising, when you are the operator and the buck stops with you, that pattern compounds fast. The Hyper 8 principle here is accountability. I own my actions, inactions, and their results. That's not just a nice idea, it's a survival skill. Number 3, waiting for someone else to fix it. Related to accountability, but distinct. Some people buy a franchise expecting the franchisor to solve their problems for them. Franchisor gives you the system, the training, the support, and the community, but they don't run your business. If your instinct when something goes wrong is to wait for a fix from the outside, you're going to be waiting a long time, and your results will show it. And number 4, unwillingness to follow the system. This one surprises people, but it's real. Franchising attracts a certain type of high achiever who looks at the franchisor's systems and immediately thinks they can do it better. And maybe they can, eventually. But the people who come in on day 1 trying to improve the model before they've even mastered it almost always underperform the people who follow the system first and optimize later. The whole point of buying a franchise is that someone else has already figured out what works. Discipline means starting there, not reinventing it. None of this is about intelligence or ambition. It's about self-awareness. The best thing you can do before you go further in this process is to be honest with yourself about which of these patterns, if any, show up in how you operate. The people who had all this self-doubt going in and made the leap anyway almost always find the same thing on the other side. They were more capable than they thought. Not because the problems went away. Problems always come up in any business, and they will in franchising too. But when you're motivated enough and the business is yours, you figure them out. One at a time, you figure them out. Business ownership forces you to grow in a way that a corporate career often doesn't. When a problem lands on your desk and there's no one above you to escalate it to, you solve it. And every time you solve it, you get a little more confident and a little more capable. Over time, people look back and realize that the person they became through the process was the whole point, not just the financial outcome. The principles that define high performers, like discipline, grit, lifelong learning, they don't require a particular background or a particular type of business. They require a willingness to bet on yourself and put in the work. If those principles are already in you, the model almost doesn't matter. You'll figure it out. The question isn't whether you're cut out for this. Almost everyone who gets serious enough about it to do the real exploration turns out to be more capable than they thought. The better question is whether this is the right fit, the right model for your skills, your goals, your lifestyle, your financial situation. That's a question worth answering carefully. And it's a different question than, am I capable? Self-doubt is often just unfamiliarity wearing the wrong label. You haven't done this before, so your brain files it under dangerous. But the people who've done it before you had the same feeling, and most of them will tell you the fear was louder than the actual difficulty. I actually built a tool specifically for this moment. It's called the Franchise Owner Fit Assessment, and it's 15 questions covering financial readiness and ownership readiness, the two things that matter most before you look at a single brand. It takes about 5 minutes, and it'll give you an honest read on where you stand. You can find it at athletetoowner.com/fit. If the results tell you you're ready, let's talk. If they raise some flags, that's useful information too, and I'm happy to walk through it with you. I'm Alan Regala, helping you become a franchise champion. See you next week.